Okay. Next up, I have a story from the New Yorker about basically the daring new frontiers in education, and it touches on a topic that we enjoy talking about, virtual reality and the metaverse, folks. That is
Oh
the
no!
charter school of the
Fuck
future
off!
will be in virtual reality.
Wow, what year
So
is
I mean,
this?
this is an incredible. There's some incredible stuff in this piece here. It just begins. It's 6 a.m. A little girl who looks to be about 10 years old hits the button on her alarm clock. She eats a bowl of cereal and brushes her teeth and hair before going to school. In class, she takes notes while her teacher, Mrs. Marty, gives a lesson. Then everyone puts on spacesuits and helmets, and the class relocates to outer space. This is the vision for a new kind of education sold in a promotional video for Optima Academy Online, an all virtual school that was launched in 2022. The little girl, like most of her classmates and teachers, spends a good part of her day in a MetaQuest 2 headset, a set of 1 pound white goggles that extends in a single band across her eyes. She wears the headset on and off for about 3 hours, removing it to read a book, eat a sandwich, and hot glue some sort of tinfoil art. Her classmates are scattered across different towns, and her teachers live all over the country. In the video, the little girl doesn't have a single in person interaction. The virtual school is part of Optima Ed, a company in Florida, of course, founded by Erica Donalds, a 43-year-old conservative education activist. During the past school year, the academy enrolled more than 170 full-time students up to the 8th grade from all over Florida, a number that Optima Ed will roughly double this fall. So basically, it's just it's like a all MetaQuest goggle school thing. But the interesting thing here is that this is all being promoted by not just like charter school activists who want to destroy public education, but by like a specific kind of conservative education activist who wants to like return to the classics, but do it in a virtual world, to do it in a video game.
Cool. So you get to like shank Julius Caesar?
Yeah.
Is that a mini game?
This is literally history? Eat who I eat. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds fun, honestly. Sounds better than Oregon fucking Trail, which is what I had.
Yeah. Hey, no slander about Oregon Trail, please. That game was awesome.
But I mean, now I'm just imagining Oregon Trail, the 8 bits, just the little musket balls just languidly going across, trying to get to the bison, versus like you're actually holding a 3D fucking black powder rifle and blowing away a thundering buffalo. Come on, you can taste it.
I want to feel what it's like to have dysentery. I want to feel
exactly.
that.
I want to shit out my virtual doo-doo ass.
I just think the interesting thing here is like both the connection of Ron DeSantis, who has expanded this program by making all students eligible for education vouchers, funded with money that would otherwise go towards public school education. So yeah, you can get a voucher now in Florida. You just stick some VR goggles on your kid and send them to Optima Ed. But
I gotta say, I feel kind of vindicated here because when all this fucking metaverse bullshit first rolled out, everyone agreed this will never catch on. I'm sorry, because it's unpleasant and no one wants to do it. Only like the most leading edge case freaks find anything appealing about this. And I said, I don't know. It's yes, no one's going to choose to do this, but eventually there's going to come a part where you are made to do it. And who the hell in the world can you make do something like go to the metaverse? Children.
Yep.
They're the only people that you can make go to the metaverse. And if you're their parent homeschooling them, or if you're some overworked public school teacher carrying out the module that like your local school district heads got a kickback to put into the classrooms, you're going to now be in there as a kid. And then maybe when you get older, you stay there because it's all you know. But this is the way to make the metaverse an actual thing, is start with the people who you can actually make go there no matter how much it sucks. Because they don't know no better, and you can tell them what to do.
Yeah, I feel bad for kids the most in this because, like, yeah, not only is it going to be foisted on them first, it's foisted on them with this ethos of like, oh, the metaverse, you love this shit, I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, you love computers? I bet you love graphics from 20 years ago on a GameCube.
Yeah.
I bet you hate legs.
Yeah. I think it's they get they're like,
Felix, I mean, I was thinking like, how is this going to work on kids when like they're used to these like immersive open world gaming experiences with like 1080p graphics?
Yeah, that's the most annoying thing about it, right? Is the metaverse is like an old person's idea of how game or any type of computerized experience can be immersive, right? Like
Yeah.
the most immersive games aren't like something where you put a fucking stupid helmet on and watch like a shitty, like basically just stretch a Steam Deck across your head. It's
Yeah.
like it immerses you in the same way that like honestly like good TV shows and movies do. Like you connect on an emotional level. It isn't just like, oh, we're replacing your entire field of vision with just this thing. Like that's like that could maybe trick not even an ape, like maybe a lesser monkey. It's just it's so insulting and like yeah, especially like yeah, kids who have already like experienced all these things. It's really shitty.
Speaking of insulting apes, Felix, I saw something recently about how zoos around the country at their gorilla enclosures, like, you know, where there's like, like a clear wall of glass, zoos, like gorilla enclosures have to like put up notices now to not show the gorillas like videos on your phone of like TikTok and Instagram because they get like it upsets them, or they can like it can rile them up, and it just like it affects their brains in exactly the same way it affects ours, because their brains are probably like 98% the same as ours. But like I love that, because I was just like, we're torturing apes, whether it's Elon Musk putting microchips in their heads, or we're showing them fucking shit on our phones that's bad for us. It's turning our brains into goop. But like, don't show it to the ape. Don't just leave them untainted from the stink of humanity.
After you show them a phone video, they start going around and being like, if you see a banana with 2 brown spots on it, that means that you've been marked to be ape trafficked.
Actually, we introduced Twitter to the apes, and they've given up bananas because we're not going to have them after the revolution.
What's your job going to be after the revolution? I think mine is going to be flea picker.
Sorry, back to Optima Ed, though. I just want to read this next paragraph, and just keep in mind what they're talking about is putting a MetaQuest headset on a 7-year-old. Optima Ed bills its education as classical, with an emphasis on the intellectual traditions of Western civilization and the liberal arts. Younger students learn phonics and diagram sentences. Older ones read the great books and the Constitution. Teachers talk a lot about virtues such as courage and self-government. It's a very traditional back-to-basics education, Donald said on a podcast recently. But like, hey, it said they're reading books and the Constitution. What, in a fucking in a VR headset?
Yeah, you roll it out like a big parchment.
Yeah,
God, I already hated how they were like just forcing kids to use tablets. I fucking hate tablets. No one under the age of 65 should use one. They're just what an insult to the people who are, you know, losing their lives mining the materials we use for microprocessors
to make those garbage
pieces of shit. Pointless. We have laptops that weigh like 8 ounces. What are we doing with these? But tablets are way better than this. This is like, that is the worst possible way I could think of to read a book. That's it, like,
one word at a time.
You retain the least information possible. Like, okay, you get the experience of reading a book, but also like a painful audio visual experience.
Also, like, why? I mean, I get why they're doing it now, because we still expect kids to learn how to read in school. But who knows? Like, once you get a few generations of the cyber children, of the meta children, you might realize, well, they don't actually have to need to learn to read. And it really is. It kind of clashes with everything else in the metaverse pedagogical wheelhouse, to have all this, having to have to stop over these little symbols instead of just bum rushing them with sensory overload, because fucking print moves too slowly. You know, they're just going to abolish it, and then it will work perfectly.
Well, I mean, like, you know, it's also part of the agenda to not abolish not just public education, but I think there is a movement afoot to abolish just education as a concept. But keep that in mind. Next paragraph here, it says, Donald's comes from the world of Florida's school choice activism. She's well known in Florida political circles. A few of Donald's closest activist allies founded the group Moms for Liberty, which has become the leading conservative voice in the movement for parents' rights and education. And Donald serves on the group's advisory board. She's also married to a congressman, Byron Donalds, a rising star in the Republican Party, who was briefly a contender for Speaker of the House in 2023. The movement for school choice and parental rights sometimes dovetails with the classical school movement, which has been experiencing a revival in America since the 1980s. Whereas the former often focuses on the shortcomings of public schools, the latter offers an alternate vision for education, a way of teaching students that calls back to the ancient wisdom and traditions of the Western world instead of instructing them using progressive pedagogy and frameworks. I hate progressive pedagogy and frameworks.
Get it out of here.
Yeah, no, but educating children in the ancient wisdom of the ancient wisdom of the open world is what it's more like. But yeah, just throw some fuck. This is just a video game. What the fuck is going on here?
Wait, they got to integrate this with the PragerU cartoon content and just have you interacting with these shitty looking cartoon versions of Robert E. Lee. Like,
Matt, did you see the PragerU clip with Robert E. Lee and Ulysses S. Grant?
Just like, you old
was like, yo,
bastard.
We're boys.
We're boys.
We got caught up on the wrong different sides. Yeah.
Oh, shucks.
Lee was a good man. We had fought together in the Mexican-American War, but this time we were just caught on the opposite side of things.
They also, I hated that one because they made Grant, who was an alcoholic who had 20 kids and 15 of them died, and they just made him sound like a soy conservative. He has the same speech patterns as Seth Dillon.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. These guys, they say they want to preserve history, but they actually are trying to destroy it and create this fucking Disneyland version of it that's
I've noticed,
robbed of any meaning and flavor.
I've noticed actually a lot of sort of neo-Confederate accounts on Twitter now will bring up Ulysses Grant's alcoholism as he was a degenerate drunk compared to the man of pure virtue, Robert E. Lee. And I gotta say, check the rings.
Yeah,
check the rings.
Scoreboard.
Yeah, it reminds me of when John Jones and Daniel Cormier in their rematch. Cormier was prodding Jones for having been, I think, the first UFC champion to ever test positive for cocaine residue in a fight that he won. And he said, yeah, well, I beat your ass after a weekend of doing coke.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Well, actually, let's talk about what's actually in the Optum Academy online. It says there are about 250 custom environments in which students and teachers can gather for lessons. These places do not exist in real life. They were built by Optima Ed staff using virtual furniture, buildings, and natural elements. This is one of the things Optima Ed sells. Independent schools, for example, can pay to have access to these custom-built environments. According to Donalds, Jeb Bush, the former governor of Florida and an early school choice promoter, was wowed by his virtual school demo, asking with wonder, "Where is this?" "Nowhere, Jeb. It's nowhere." So they've wowed Jeb Bush. This technology has blown the fucking socks off of Jeb Bush. This
MacBook Pro, baby.
This being a classical virtual reality school, Optima's environments include settings in ancient Greece and Rome. Okay, I don't think we should be putting kids in an ancient Greek and Roman setting for schooling.
No, I thought we were trying to
I thought we were trying to end that. We're trying to, Moms for Liberty is trying to get that out of schools. Yeah. Today we're learning about frottage.
I was a motion capture actor for that. I had to do some terrible things.
He plays a body Thracian.
Yeah.
It says, okay, recently the head of the online academy, Dan Sturvedant, and its academic dean, Kim Abel, took me on a tour of an early Roman outpost. The images are closer to an animated video game than to documentary footage. We teleported past a Roman official's house, decked out with red clay roof tiling, up some stairs to an open patio of black and white checkered marble floors, surrounded by ionic columns and an ivy-covered railing. Here, a teacher might spawn a set of bleachers for students to sit during a lecture on a subject such as history or Latin. The head of the virtual school's history department, Jonathan Olson, has a PhD in American religious history and is responsible for verifying the historical fidelity of the ancient sites, bleachers notwithstanding. Okay, why would you give your kid this kind of education when you can just buy them the Assassin's Creed games? which provide an excellent education in all sorts of ancient historical environments.
Yeah. How many neck snappings can you do in this bullshit? I think 0.
Yeah, again, I mean, like, I hate pretty much every Assassin's Creed that came out really after the first Obama term. But, like, they're more immersive than this bullshit. Like, I'm struck by them using the term animated video game. What other type is there? Like, yeah, that assures me that this is just top of the line, incredibly immersive audio-visual technology. It's animated?
Get the fuck out.
Toward the end of the school year, I joined a 6th grade science class on a field trip to an Everest base camp. The scene was elaborately staged. This doesn't sound like classical education. This is like, here's what Mount Everest looks like if you were standing underneath. I mean, they're not, where are the kids getting drilled on Greek and Latin?
It's just pure spectacle, sensation, no context. So then nothing can make sense. You can't like keep it in your head as anything. Just it's these discrete experiences. And then it's like, it's good enough for you because nobody who's matters kid is going to learn this way.
Yeah, no, this is only for the invisible people's kids. This is like if they took what they did to Alex in Clockwork Orange and were like, it's a new learning experience.
Stop it, please, I beg you! It's a sin! It's a sin!
Yeah. And it makes you fit to take things from one place to another.
God, what a fucking, it's so grim how we like teach the kids of our CVS employees and Uber drivers. Like, you're like the backbone of this horrible, shitty system that is near its apex of exploitation. But guess what? Your kids get a shitty tablet and now an onerous overheating helmet that blasts EverQuest at them that you have to pay for.
It's great. Timmy's doing wonderfully in class. Bad thing is that his invisible friend is Oscar Derlwanger.
Yeah. We have great news. We've almost completely eroded the part of your son's frontal lobe that produces empathy.
The teachers had set up weather station equipment that a researcher might use, such as a compass and a barometer. The kids struggled with the lesson. When a teacher asked them where air pressure would be greatest, on the beach or at the top of a mountain, they weren't certain how to answer. This session was chaotic. On a normal day, teachers might press a button and forcibly seat the students to prevent them from moving around during a lesson.
Jesus Christ.
But since this was supposed to be an interactive field trip, the kids were free to zoom around at will, which they did. One of them, who had styled his avatar with a helmet, walked right through me. Roughly a dozen 6th graders were there, but it was hard to keep track of them with all the fidgeting. Okay. You know how, I mean, not to be too old-fashioned here, not to be too back in my day, but I'd say if you wanted to teach a group of 6th graders how to use a compass or a barometer, you would just show them a compass or a barometer, not send them to this fucking Mount EverQuest fucking side mission to set up virtual weather equipment to prepare them for a life of being gig Sherpas for DoorDash or whatever.
Yeah, with the Jeb Bush thing earlier reminded me that Neil Bush, my favorite Bush brother,
yes,
he made like a small fortune in selling like bullshit education software. And like, I remember using stuff like that when I was like in grade school. Like, there was like Math Blasters. I'm sure people remember that. But like, most crucially, those things did teach you very basic like multiplication and addition.
Yeah. And
most importantly, it wasn't horribly uncomfortable and you didn't get scolded for acting like a 9 or 10-year-old who's had a helmet forcibly placed on them that deadens out all their other senses. This is terrible. This makes me so fucking sad.
Get in the virtual veal crate, children. This is what it's like to be a veal calf as it's prepared for slaughter.
That fucking Pearl Jam, do the evolution video. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Oh, they're putting the fucking stamps on the kids' heads. Yikes. This is some real the wall style shit right here.
To forcibly seat the kids in VR. Jesus fucking Christ. Like, just kill yourself. Not if you're the kids. If you made this, fuck you. I hope you fucking die.
a little bit more about the virtual ascent of Everest. It says here, in the next activity, we attempted to scale the Khumbu Icefall, which in real life is a deadly stretch on one route up Everest. The format was a cross between a quiz show and a video game. Using the teleport function on our handheld controllers, we moved along a line of chairs set up along the icefall, occasionally passing a floating note card with a review question. There was also a physical rule put in place. No one could move the controller in their left hand, otherwise they'd fall from the mountain and force the whole group back to base camp, where we'd have to start all over again. At first, the students discussed the various dangers of the mountain. One suggested that we should all be quiet to prevent an avalanche, then started screaming to demonstrate what not to do. A teacher quickly muted them. God bless kids. Kids will be kids. Yeah.
That is the only bright spot in this thing, that the kids are fucking this thing up every chance they get, which they should do. They absolutely
Oh my
should.
God, yes.
Yeah.
Eat the fucking controller.
Anyone who has subjected kids to this deserves the most unruly classroom possible. But it's like, so it's pitched as this amazing thing because it's interactive. Yet anytime anyone interacts with it, it just craters and has to fucking restart because it's made as shoddily as possible. Wow, it's almost like you could just show them a fucking documentary if you were being that lazy.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's a better way of teaching.
Yeah, just
than
slap,
this.
open palm,
the
slap
TV,
the
roll
VHS
the TV into the class.
television.
Yeah.
That is way less traumatic and mind warping than this shit.
Yeah, like I honestly, from what it sounds like, anytime that like a kid moves at all, like puts any input in, they probably bill it as like, oh no, it's the same as like keeping order in a classroom. You have to like, but I actually think that it's so shittily made that it can't handle multiple inputs. And it doesn't have like the video memory to handle that. So it has to reboot every time that it gets more than like one thing put into it.
Well, these discipline problems with kids virtually moving and pressing the teleporter button when they've been frozen by the teleport controller, these disciplinary issues will soon fall away when Optima Ed includes like sort of like a dog collar that you can attach to the MetaQuest goggles. It delivers a small jolt, just a mild jolt of
but memorable
electricity
shock
to the reticent student.
Mm-hmm.
Just finishing up about the expedition up Everest. As the exercise got underway, the kids grew increasingly frustrated. "My teleport's broken," one of them shouted. Another one couldn't find the chair in the line up the mountain. People must have been using their left-hand controllers because the whole group kept falling and getting to reset at the beginning of the activity. Every time a pre-recorded message from one of the teachers would say, "Oh man, well, hopefully we won't make that mistake again," several kids sped ahead of the rest of the group. It wasn't clear who was actually looking at the review questions. Just last paragraph I want to read here. Afterward, when I asked Sturdivant about what had happened on the mountain, he described it as an opportunity for virtue development. "There's a virtue in serving your peers well by not being a distraction," Sturdivant said. "There's a virtue in having self-discipline and being able to control your emotions." Those are the follow-up conversations that we will have with the students.
You know what would be virtuous? If you went into your garage right now and just fucking gunned your car in neutral. If you got into a bathtub and opened your wrists, you piece of shit, you fucking child torture profiteer. Fuck
you. It really is evil. It really is
Kill yourself
evil.
now.
And all this, like, and by the way, these people, they have contracts, or they have like deals in place with Hillsdale, the sort of like evangelical Harvard.
What a shock! I think just like all the schools where it just all the administration gets off on like disciplining and punishing children as much as possible. They love this shit. These were the same people that like during COVID were like, this is like horrible for kids that they're being
putting the
isolated.
masks on them. Oh my God.
Right. Putting goggles on them. That's normal.
Like to a point, it's like I am sympathetic to a lot of that because like COVID was really bad for young people. Like
awful.
Both like the anxiety and misery of COVID itself, but also like the isolation. Young people
and losing like a year or 2 years of education as well.
Yeah. Young people gave up a lot and it was really sad. But this is like, well, like they might as well just stay home. Like this is the same thing. You're taking all the socialized aspects away from learning. This is horrible. Like I think a Zoom school is like terrible. This is worse. This is way worse.
This is a million times worse. And like, I think the thing that strikes me about all this is like, despite its lofty aspirations and like association with like, supposedly the supposed institutions of learning like Hillsdale, and this whole agenda of like classical education, like, okay, let's say that there is some virtual lesson plan where you get to like, I don't know, fall off Mount Everest 50 times and like look at little pop-up questions or whatever. And then like when confronted with it, the guy, the stupid guy who should probably end his life, what's his name? Sturtevant. He says like, okay, like rather than imparting any lessons about Mount Everest, like the country it's located in, how tall it is, like when it was formed, like, I don't know, like the anything of cultural, scientific, or political interest about the history of Mount Everest. It's just like, oh no, actually the lesson was about virtue building, like the virtue of helping others and not being annoying.
Yeah,
shutting your fucking mouth.
I mean, like, what a fucking tell that is too, because right, of course, there's
obedience.
Nothing. There's nothing like anyone who's like ever sold like education software, like we talked about, at least had like a pitch where it's like, oh, well, if you do it in this, if you gamify it in this way, it makes people competitive about like learning facts or like multiplication tables or anything like that. There's like a pitch that's centered on the act of learning itself. But because this is strictly a tool of immiseration and discipline through sensory deprivation, he's like, no, this is about learning to keep your fucking head down and prepare for your future of door dashing.
And like the thing is, I remember being in 6th grade, like theoretically, some sort of like TV documentary or computer game virtual trip to Mount Everest would be very fascinating to like me as a 6th grader. I would imagine like many other 6th graders, because kids are fascinated with things that are big, and like there's interesting things you can teach kids. According to Sturtevant, he says here, there's a virtue in having self-discipline and being able to control your emotions. And then he says, struggle is okay. Distraction is not. If there are ways in which the technology gets in the way, we'll correct those things.
You should struggle with a sword jammed into your own stomach, and then maybe the distraction can be ended by a friend beheading you after 30 seconds of bleeding. You need to commit Florida seppuku now.
Well, the last line I'll read from the article is, it says, at Optimus Virtual School, Rylan has thrived, his mom said. His parents work from home and they like having him around, especially because Rylan used to be so anxious about the school day. He doesn't have to worry about a school shooter coming in, Hill said. He doesn't even have to worry about the drills anymore. Boy, oh boy. It's just, we really...
you got me there, man.
It's just, it's just...
Touche.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I detect the vile phantom menace, the veiled hand of Zuckerberg behind this entire goddamn thing. Because we look at him epically face planting with Meta and realizing, okay, nobody is going to choose to do this. Well, what about those people who can't choose to do anything? And if I'm not mistaken, Zuck is a huge school choice guy with a huge funding network within school choice networks. So how hard would it have been for him to stand up a couple of independent organizations moving towards this new results-based techno-learning concept that, just so happens to use the Meta platform?
that nobody else wants to use.
By bribing the school districts is basically what they do. And then it becomes de rigueur, and a whole generation gets inculcated and brainwashed into that way of living. And of course, this is a moment when we have this titanic battle over brainwashing children about ideological capture in schools. And meanwhile, you have a literal war on like what it is to be a human being waged on children. The thing you're saying you're scared of, but because it doesn't trip any fucking culture war triggers, it doesn't hit any tripwires, then it just is invisible. And then it's just going to happen. And you're going to have the kids who don't really count, because of course the voters and the policymakers, none of their kids are going to go through this. That's assumed. This is for somebody else's kids. And there's going to be 2 different modules depending on which party holds your state government. You're going to have the 1619 woke module, and you're going to have the 1776 base module. And then you get to just not learn anything from any of it, and just really just learn how to be a literal drone.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about like the war on public education, and obviously like that's a huge part of what's going on here. But as I said before, it's like there is a war on the concept of education, and it's like under the guise of whether it's this like classical wink wink really virtual education, or I don't know, like decolonizing the curriculum
Right.
or whatever shit that is.
It's just a way to deliver this new way of being onto people.
To deliver to deliver things to kids that are like under the guise of education that are like to destroy your mind and your will to live.
And the pitch is no, they have to learn the right things. They have to learn the right values, or else we're going to lose the culture war. But they're not learning any of that. They're not learning anything. They're just learning to, yes, be obedient and to not recognize human connection if they fucking had any.
Yeah.
Don't move the left controller, Matt. Don't move the left controller.
Matt, you're going to reset. You're going to reset us. You're going to take us out of Gettysburg.
Hello, friends. It's Monday, September 11th. This is your Chapo coming out. I hope everyone is having a wonderful 9/11. And just dancing. That's what people do on 9/11, and it's what's trending on Twitter right now.
We have to like make this completely illegal within like 3 years, or
actually.
But Larry and Jihad time, honestly, it's go time with this.
If you can't beat them, join them. And I think we need to start our own PragerU and just start doing our own, your virtual professor, Matt Christmas, taking you around the Antietam battlefield.
Ooh,
I think that would be great
fun
for kids. We'd have fun.
To the sunken road.
Yeah, you could tell them about all the people who died there. You can
the wheat
get the
field.
fire up.
Burnside's bridge.
If we're just because this stuff isn't education, I would like to do a class where I teach the events of Elden Ring, its real history that happened.
Listen, it doesn't actually matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah,
the Middle Ages happened, or if this happened.
Yeah,
it's just a fun story either way.
Hey, Matt. According to virtual professor Gary Kasparov, the Middle Ages didn't happen. So check out Elden Ring.
Checkmate.
Yes.
Yeah, Rome fell 20 years ago.
Honestly, I think a virtual class and with a series of lectures that you gave explicating the entire lore of Elden Ring, it's better. They're not reading books in school anymore. That'd be better than most English lit classes that they're teaching these days. That's got story, characters, themes, tropes.
There are better morals in Elden Ring than there are in any of this child torture device as it exists currently.
Best of luck to Optima Ed and the proprietors of which
and good luck to the children.
Have names and addresses.
If what was the guy's name again?
Stardivant.
If you're schizophrenic and live in Stardivant's neighborhood, please hear these numbers: 17, 18, 19, 35, 7, 17, 18, gray, 49, 70, 70, 108, 108, 9, 00, black. Do what those numbers tell you.
I mean, 2 108s in a row. I know what that means.
Yeah.
Yup.
Do what you got to do.
We do not endorse any. We didn't. Yeah, just kidding. These are all a joke. If you're a schizophrenic, please do not take this seriously.
Seek help.
Go leave Florida.
Yeah, get the fuck out of there.
Leave. Not good for you.